Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome, mate. Great to have you on. Tell us about how your army career began.
My career began pretty early on. My dad joined the army when I was about 6 years old. I've kind of been in the army since I was 6 years old, sort of in and around, like moving around and all that sort of stuff. Because of that, I always had an awareness of the army and what it could do and how I could do it and whether I should do it, but always sort of tried to forge my own path. That was something that was drummed into me pretty early on, and so I tried some other things. I worked for the Fremantle Council for a while, and then I started becoming a pastry chef, a pre-apprenticeship as a pastry chef, and a pre-apprenticeship as a chef. Then I realised that being inside wasn't my thing. Starting really, really early and finishing really, really late at night wasn't my thing. So, and I was living in Perth at the time and grew up in Perth and enjoyed that, but I needed to get away. The army was always there. So at around sort of 22 years old in September of 1999, I pulled the pin and went to Kapooka and started my journey from there. And here we are, 2024, 25 years later, or coming on to 25 years later. And I'm not full time anymore, but I did that whole time in the army. And
awesome. And postings and deployments, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I got really lucky. My father was Special Forces; he was SAS, and so I was exposed to that again at a young age. And I got really lucky. My first posting straight out of IETs as a signaller was to 4RAR, now known as 2 Commando. And sort of backtracking, my second week in Kapooka, we went in East Timor. So the Australian Army went to East Timor, and I was sitting at Kapooka and going, oh, wow, that wasn't what I thought was going to happen. And, we ended up, I got to 126, which is 4RAR, and then April the following year, that was October, April the following year, I was in East Timor.
Wow.
So within sort of 12 months of being in the unit, I was away on deployment. So I did that. During that time in East Timor, September 11 happened. Obviously, a pretty significant time in everyone's lives, especially around that sort of vintage. And things changed. The world changed, and away we went. And after that, I posted out of 4RAR and went around. I went to Norforce and Darwin. Went to Afghanistan during that time when I was at 1 Brigade, and we did Reconstruction Task Force 1, which was that was a trip. And after that, I had a bit of a break from deployments and did a few things, did training commands and non sort of core related stuff, and then ended up in 2020 back in the UAE, back in AMAB as a warrant officer, completely different job than what I'd done before, and that's pretty much that was my career in a nutshell, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So share your transition with us, Matt.
I suppose we go back to the UAE. I was sitting in AMAB. People that have been there, I know. We won't get into the ins and outs of AMAB, but I was sitting in AMAB trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I was a Y1. I'd done lots of stuff. It's 23 years in the military. You do lots of stuff and see lots of things and do lots of things. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I'd done everything that I wanted to do. I thought I'd had a pretty successful career and had achieved, going from the bottom to the top. So I was pretty happy with my lot, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do next, whether I wanted to keep going and be that warrant officer that I always said I wasn't going to be, which was the one that sort of hung around and just sort of blocked up the queue, so to speak, or would I forge another path? And that was, I could become an officer and do that. Did I want to start again though? And that was a question I kept sort of asking myself. Or did I want to go really rogue and go do something completely different? And that sort of sparked looking around and trying to find some things that were out there that interested me. And my background, as well as being in the military, I'd been a PT for a while. I'd run a business. I'd run a stand-up paddleboard business in Canberra, which was, really good fun, and I enjoyed. I enjoyed working for myself because outside of my wife being the boss, I was able to do my thing and in my own time. So that sort of planted the seed for let's look at some other opportunities. And an opportunity came up pretty quickly, which was Recovery Lab. And while sitting in AMAB in COVID lockdown, the gestation of Recovery Lab occurred, and we started looking into it. And the more I looked into it, the more it sort of ticked the boxes for the things I wanted to do and the things I want to put back out there. And it helps me, and if I can help me, then there's a pretty good chance I can help others, and that's sort of been my focus is help me to help others, and we can go from there.
Did you voluntary discharge, Matt?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not shy and not sort of backwards in telling people that I've got mental health issues. I was diagnosed with panic anxiety back in 2011, and then a follow-on diagnosis of PTSD after that, further on down the track. And I've struggled with that. Not going to say I haven't, but it's something that I've worked really, really hard to conquer. I'll never conquer it, I know that, but I'll stay on top of it, and I'll do all the things that I can do to manage it. And this is one of them. Like talking about it, telling people about it. If I can talk to people about it that don't, recognise me as possibly having, mental health issues, then maybe it makes them look at themselves and go, hey, I've got some dramas too. And maybe that will, whether it opens up to them or to someone else or to me, that's a good thing, I think.
Breaking that stigma.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing I've tried to tell friends and soldiers and people I don't even know, because you end up in the position that I'm in. I get people that tend to confide in me because I'm relatable, but I'm not in their chain of command, or I'm not really, really close to them. And people get a bit concerned if people are really, really close to them that they can be the ones that will end their careers. And what I've been really sort of vocal to people about is self-refer. Okay, don't hide it. The more you hide it, the harder it will become. The more obvious it will become, because everything starts getting pretty tight. The world starts feeling like it starts closing in. And I was lucky. I had a brilliant supportive family. My wife, a very young child at the time, but my dad, really, really supportive and sort of encouraged me to take the control of it, because the biggest thing I notice, and what's been told to me, is that most people with mental health issues, it's a loss of control. And for someone that's in the military who's always, feels like they're in control, when you lose control, that is probably the most foreboding and scary thing that happens when you start losing control. And, if you can take a little bit of control back by, taking control of that situation, then it gives you a little bit of strength, I think.
Awesome. So that led you to Recovery Lab and entrepreneurship, I guess. So tell us about Recovery Lab, what it is.
Yeah. People tell me I'm an entrepreneur, and I don't know. I suppose my thoughts on being an entrepreneur is people rolling around in BMWs and all this sort of stuff. And I'm definitely not doing that. Business ownership is tough, but I love Recovery Lab and what we're doing and what we're providing back into this Townsville community. And there's Recovery Lab's not my idea. I don't own it. I just own one of them. So I'm the franchisor. Not franchisor. I'm the franchisee. That's the right one. I was in the army for 23 years. I'm not good with that sort of stuff. But I'm the franchisee for Townsville. We were the first studio outside of Melbourne. So the original studio opened in Melbourne, and we came on board, as I said, at the end of or the start of 2021. We opened up in August 2021, so 24th of August, with birthdays coming up, which is pretty cool. third birthday at that. Who would have thought? You'd start a small business in the middle of COVID that you'd be successful and still kicking around in 3 years' time. But anyway.
Well done, yeah.
But so Recovery Lab focuses on recovery for the body and the mind for everyone. Okay, so the protocols we use, ice bars, saunas, compression boots, all that sort of stuff, Newcombe, Compex, which we can talk about in great detail or in little detail as need be, it is designed for athletes. However, the use cases for everyone is obvious. If you've got poor circulation, we can chuck in the compression boots, we can put you in a sauna, we can put you in an ice bath. That's for everyone. Okay, Newcombe, developed to treat panic, anxiety and PTSD for the military. The US military green-lit this bit of tech, which is the only patented neuro-acoustic software in the world. Now, and going off on you said I could go on a tangent, so I'm going to go on one right now. But, to get a patent for anything, you need to prove that it works, and not just that it turns on and there's a green light and everything's good. You're proving scientifically and medically that it actually works and does the things that it says it will do. And Newcombe does that. It's the thing that I use most in the studio. And as I said, with the things that I've got going on in my life, with a business and a family, and my own mental health issues, to be able to just set aside half an hour a day, or twice a week, or 3 times a week, pop some headphones on and an eye mask, and sit in a nice, comfy chair, and it helps me. That's great. And the fact that it actually works, it's not a placebo, even better. That's just a couple of things we got in there. It's our whole setup is not a sausage factory, okay. And when I say not a sausage factory, is we haven't got not got giant pools where everyone shares with randoms. We haven't got saunas that 20 people are sitting in, sweating all over each other, walking in, walking out. We've got nice private spaces that you don't need to share with strangers, which is nice, I think. Plenty of space, plenty of light, and the ability to come in and do what you want to do when you want to do it. We're not locking you in. It's great. I really love it, and the fact that pretty much 70 to 75% of our membership and our regular clientele are military is great, and fills me with confidence that we can start sort of encouraging this new wave of soldier and sailor and airman and airwoman to come through and actually start looking after themselves and taking charge of their own health instead of just waiting for it to be done for them. Or wait until they're broken. I can talk to that. Anyone that's we're all sitting here with experience in the military, and that's the biggest takeaway that we've got from most people is it's just a knee, it's just an ankle. I'm 22. How bad could it be? And then you're 26, you're 28, you're 38, and it's like, holy crap, I can't move. It's like, no one wants to admit they're doing the walk in their PFT or their BFA or anything like that. But in the end, when you have to, because the pain is so bad, well, maybe 10 years ago when you did that initial injury, you probably could have taken charge of it. And that's what we're starting to see, is that people are taking that time to start looking after themselves and prioritising their mental and physical health to allow them to have a long career.
Do people need to make an appointment, Matt?
Look, it's best. Like at the moment, it's Townsville, it's winter. I say that in massive inverted commas. But our sauna usage has gone through the roof, and we're seeing more people using saunas now than we have ever before. So if you want to do an ice bath at this time of year, you're pretty right. Go for your life. You're pret're pretty good at it. And I will say that ice bath this time of year is the best time of year to do it. Definitely hardens the soul. But you're better off making an appointment, coming in, having a chat to us. Come in, have a chat to me, have a chat to my staff, check out the place, have a look around, walk around, and then we can get you set up and find out what's actually wrong. Like we get lots of people who just come in and on a wing and a prayer, and I'll just do this. Oh, why are you doing that? Oh, I've got this issue. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we could recommend something else that can help, that'd be more beneficial. And that's what we want to do. We want to provide a service that is bespoke and not just, come, hey mate, just take a seat and away. We're trying to provide a personal service where we can have a chat to people, see how they're going. When Steve comes in for his ice bath, he comes in, we're going to have a chat. I'm terrible for, and as you're finding out right now, I'm terrible for, all of a sudden just chatting to you for like 5-10 minutes and then go, oh, I better go help someone else. So you end up getting lost in the conversation, and that's great. It's so good to be able to build these relationships with people and seeing their growth.
And making people feel welcome, I think that's key and incredible.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to feel welcome? There's nothing worse than walking into somewhere
feeling like a number,
feeling like a number, or feeling like you're just there to tick the register over. So, I think it's good to have that personal connection with people, even if it's just, hey, how you doing? Did you have a good day? Yeah, it was crap. All right, cool.
Sounds incredible. We are asking all our guests this question, Matt. What would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self? Look after yourself a little bit better. As much as we feel completely bulletproof when we're young, and I mean, look, I joined the army when I was 22, so I was a little bit older than the average person coming through. But even then, I wasn't looking after myself. The basic sort of looking after yourself of stretching, getting a good night's sleep, hydrating, all that sort of stuff. That's all pretty good. But what I wish I'd done at an earlier time in my career would be to seek help for these things earlier. Like, don't rely on this is going to sound pretty controversial potentially, but don't rely on the military health system to support you, because yes, it's there, yes, it's free, but it's limited. Okay, and we're looking at how many people are in the army now? The military, 60,000 plus. Okay, we've got bases in all the capital cities. They've got a medical centre. Okay, how many doctors do they have in there? How many physios? It's limited. So if you're relying on that medical system to maintain your body, maintain your mind, then things are going to break, and you need to take a little bit of your own responsibility for yourself, okay, and your mates. So if it means you're going to your local recovery lab or your local recovery place or the pool or going for a walk, take a mate along with you. Look after them, look after yourself. But if you're going to rely on the military medical system to get you through your career, then it's going to eat you up. And doing one session of physio a month is not going to support you. You need to take charge.
Awesome.
It's great advice, Matt.
Thanks very much for coming on and sharing your story, and all the best.
No worries, guys. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks, Matt.